Away from the Citadel podcast, hosted by Charlie Fawcett and Luke Helliwell.
Hello and welcome to Away from the Citadel. This is episode 6. Once again, joined by Charlie. How are we doing today, Charlie?
I'm all right, Luke. Yourself?
I'm good, thank you. And got a special guest today, Councillor of Calverley and Farsley, Craig Timmins. How are we doing today?
Hey, all good, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
No worries, thank you for coming on. Obviously, we're going to ask you a few questions about sort of linked to the football club, in the centre of it. But we'll get started. First of all, what's it been like becoming the councillor of Calverley and Farsley? How have you taken to the role so far?
Yeah, love it. I mean, I've made this community my own over a decade ago, bringing my family up here. And, you know, there's nothing better than community and, you know, people coming together, you know, for the future benefit of the society and the community and, you know, seeing what we can do to help each other. So absolutely love it.
So as someone who's been part of the community for many years, taking on this role, how has it felt being able to try and change the place that you love for the better?
It's good. I mean, you find when you get into the position that, you know, some things are difficult to deal with. Quite a lot of what we do, people don't see. It's helping people out with personal issues to them. And I think it does feel rewarding when you can make a difference to them, but also getting involved with community groups like Project Farsley, you know, Calverley Carnival, you know, turning up and, you know, paying your respects on Armistice Day with the Royal British Legion. It, you know, it makes you feel good and it makes you feel, you know, that you can make a difference to people's lives in the area.
So I want to move on to the football club for a second. So what does it feel having such a passionately supported football club right in the heart of Farsley?
I think it's fantastic. You know, Farsley Celtic means a lot to the people in the community and surrounding areas as well. It's, you know, you could say it's one of the jewels in the crown of the community. You know, with the, you know, second biggest team in Leeds, the highest ranked village team in the country. You know, punching well above air weight. I try to get to many Saturday matches myself. You know, not everyone can get to every match. You know, it can be difficult, but when the club really needs them, they turn up. You only have to look at the last game of the season last year. You know, faced with relegation, a big crowd turned up, everyone got behind, and you know, we did it. We stayed up, and you know, again, going back to what I just said, punching well above their weight, and it feels great to be part of that.
So you mentioned obviously there the final day of last season and what a great day it was for the football club, but times have obviously changed. Games haven't been played at the Citadel this season. Has that had, what sort of an impact has that had on the local community around it?
Yeah, it's had a tough impact. I think when it first started, I think people were cautiously optimistic. You know, we're going to have this fantastic new pitch. You know, the women's team, the hugely successful deaf team, the youth teams can all be a part of it and play there. And, you know, people feeling positive about it. There were some people that were cynical from the very start. And, you know, looking back now, they were right to be so. I think as time's gone on, you know, and things that were supposed to happen didn't happen, deadlines were missed, that trust, that goodwill, it ebbed away. And ultimately, you know, it's come out that people have been lied to. There was no materials bought. There was no historical issue with the pitch that was holding it up. You know, and ultimately there was no funding. And people are angry. It's unacceptable.
So should Farsley Celtic be relegated, which obviously they're sat at the bottom of the division, obviously Dave Stockdale trying his hardest, but things are looking tough, mountain to climb. Do you think that'll have an impact on the community if games are being played at Citadel again, with match day income and revenue? Do you think that'll have a negative impact with a drop of division?
Of course, I think we all want Farsley to be where they are. You know, they've held their own. The problems that they've got are no fault of the players, But what's happened has happened. You know, it looks like they probably will get relegated. You know, fingers crossed they don't, but they probably will. Do I think that will have an impact? No. I think because of everything that's got on, you know, if we can get the club on the right footing, you know, people want to get behind them. People want to get back to, you know, Saturday matches, socialising with the friends. So no, I don't. I think it'll give us a little bit more invigoration, let's say, you know, wanting to get back to where we should be.
So I'm going to pass over to Charlie, who's got a few more questions for you.
Yeah, so on the club, obviously recently the news broke that the Citadel is now being classed as a community asset. How big do you think that is for the village as a whole?
I think this is a really important point. So it's an acknowledgement of how important Farsley Celtic is, not just to our community, but Leeds as a whole. With the community assets, so my colleague Peter Cllr, he actually spoke to a member of the supporters club to tell them about the process, and then obviously the supporters club has applied for it, and myself and Peter, we made sure that we were pushing for a decision to be made, because actually the deadline passed, and with everything kicking off in the club, we felt it was really important that decision got made. So actually I think it's very important, and what that allows for is, you know, if the club does go into administration, it gives a grace period for the community to try to come together to get the funds to be in there to purchase the club. So actually it's really important, because, you know, we've got an opportunity to make sure that whatever happens, it stays as our community club.
Yeah, I think it's nice to hear that it's not just the title of a community asset. It does actually have a lot of meaning for the community as a whole. But you mentioned talking to people in the sports club. Have you had any direct communication with like the owners and representatives of Farsley Celtic since taking over?
Yes. So quite a lot of people wrote to us when things didn't seem to be going the way they were, to us as councillors and to the MP. The MP's office actually wrote to the club quite early on, but the response was that there's no issues. You know, there are people out there to cause trouble, and ultimately, it was a private business, and you know there was no sense of engagement from it. Moving on, since the chairman has stepped down, the board has been far more engaging. Okay, they've invited us as local councillors, all local councillors of different political persuasions, along to have a meeting, to lay everything out on the table, where the issues are, and you know, we've committed to support the club to succeed, helping whatever ways we can to make sure the club can become sustainable and successful again.
Yeah. And I think that's just nice for Farsley fans at home to hear that this new board, as they've said, it's more evidence that they're trying to be more open and honest with the fan base. And this is just another example of that. So in your manifesto, we noticed that you're looking to champion community spirit. And I'm just wondering whether you think that the football club is a big part of that, and obviously bringing games back. Do you think that would help in your quest to do so?
Absolutely. You know, that was already a part of it. And people, and listening to previous podcasts and what people have said, you know, it's a big part of people's social lives. You know, people get together, you know, with friends, and this is men, women, children, who they, you know, might only see on match day, you know, catch up on life, put the world to rights, you know, have a laugh, have a drink, all while watching some great football and getting behind the thing that actually brings them together, Farsley Celtic.
Absolutely. So we won't keep it too long. We've got one more question here. But as a person who's clearly passionate about your community, have you got a message for your constituents that might be a bit worried about the fact that there's no games? Have you got a message to sort of reassure them at the moment?
What I would say is there is a lot of people in this community whether it's the board or other people, fans, that want this club to succeed. We're going through a very tough time at the moment. We've got to get some important things sorted. The pitch, obviously, the finances, but paying local businesses and local staff, local people who worked at the club to make sure they're paid what they need. But Farsley Celtic has hit rock bottom before, and it's succeeded again. And I've got every confidence that when the Farsley community comes together, we will make Farsley Celtic into a top club, punching well above the weight and being back where they should be.
Thanks a lot. That is a brilliant way to end. So that's all we've got time for today's episode. But thanks a lot for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you very much.
Away from the Citadel podcast, hosted by Charlie Fawcett and Luke Helliwell.